You're watching KHQA Overtime with Chris Dewar, brought to you by Con Communications.
And happy weekend, everybody. This, in fact, is Overtime, a simmering cauldron of local sports goodness ladled out lovingly to you over the next 30 minutes by yours truly. And in full candor, I shudder to think about the number of man hours and road miles that went into making this show, this all-encompassing edition of Overtime, possible tonight. But that's just how we roll here, because that's how much we love you fine people out there. High school wrestling is the order of the day to begin with, and a tall order it would be, as this is championship weekend in 3 different states. And in Columbia, that means a second chance, a chance for redemption, if you will, for young master Chandler Fohey of the Hannibal High School Pirates to grab the most glorious title in the state. He just missed that honor as a freshman last year. Today, he'd get a chance to try it again at Missouri Arena. Chandler in action today against Matthew Schmidt. No, not that guy. This guy right here. Not sure if Chandler or his reputation got the better of things early, as the other kid refused to attack Chandler with an escape, as you saw right there, to open period number 2. He was up 1-0 at that point, still up 1-0 with 18 seconds to play. How about Mr. Schmidt trying everything in his power to get away? But you know what? Chandler is not going to let it happen, and that young sophomore is bound for immortality. Throwing up the strap and getting it done today. Chandler with a big win, 1-0. Really not the most eventful match you will ever see, but good enough to win a state championship. And again, he's just a sophomore. The big hug. Chandler Fohey, state champion, and he couldn't be more thrilled.
Champion for Class 3 at 106, Chandler Fohey of Hannibal.
It's awesome. It means a lot. I mean, I have the 3 best coaches in the world, you know, that push me and drive me in practice. And it just means so much that I have 2 more years to go, and I can spend it with, like I said, the 3 best coaches.
You and Austin, I know, work hard and together at that weight class. To have a guy like that to come into the weight room every day with, how does that help you become a state champion?
It's awesome. I mean, he's probably the best practice partner I've got, and you know, he works so hard too. And he did so good at the state tournament his first year, and maybe next year, he will be on the podium. Oh yeah, it definitely makes me hungry. And how do I attack it? You know, just try to work as hard as I did this year with the coaches I got, and you know, they'll push me and drive me to do my best. And if I get my 100%, you know, anything's possible.
A couple more of those before it's all said and done. Outstanding effort, Chandler. Meanwhile, his teammate Tyler Janes at 126 trying to win a title had a tough draw here, taking on Bradley Perkins, already a 2-time state champ. But that escape makes it a 4-2 match at this point in the second period. Unfortunately for Tyler, Bradley Perkins from Oak Park just flat good. Look at the takedown right here. This kid, only 126 pounds, looks like he weighs about 170, and he ends up with an 8-4 victory. Tyler gave it his best today. He's just a junior, so he's got a chance to come back and better that second place finish today, but an outstanding effort for him. Big hug, great sportsmanship. Tyler, a great kid. Again, one of those Hannibal Pirates, and there are about 4 or 5 of them coming back next season with a chance to win state championships. So good showing today for those 2 gentlemen in Columbia, a first and second place. Congratulations to Coach Derek and Coach Jimmy and company. Great showing for the Hannibal Pirates. And we're just getting started. After advancing a tremendous slate of 8 Western Illinois wrestlers to the Final 4 in Champaign in Class 1A, our local contingent ran into a hornet's nest of superb opponents in the state semifinals last night. As a result, we entered the Saturday with just 1 title hopeful left alive. Pittsfield 170-pounder Zach Abney, the man with biceps as big as your head, and he is a good one, but he drew a good one as well. Number 1 versus number 2 in the state. Abney won. Brandon Scalavanis out of Oregon, number 2, and Scalavanis building a 4-0 lead with a takedown right here in the fourth period, I should say the third period. It would be Zach Abney with an escape eventually, as you see Scalavantis ends up taking the 4-0 lead right here. Zach Abney doing his level best to get the escape to make it a 4-1 match in period number 3, but unfortunately for Zach, he could never draw any closer. Great showing, but he'll have to settle for second place. Number 2 in the state, Scalavanis gets the win. Abney finishes his career number 2 in the state and adds to that fine Pittsfield tradition.
He came out and brought it, and I came out this season ready to come up here and be in that finals match. I made it to that finals match, and I'm just happy I'm up here. he's held on whenever he's when he was on top riding and everything. That's the first person I've not been able to get out from underneath. So it's a pretty good rider.
Great season, though. Zach, Tri-State's very, very proud of you indeed. We had guys wrestling in the semifinal wrestlebacks, guys who lost last night, trying to get it back going, including Will Lucy, the 106-pound freshman. Boy, was he good today against Midwest Central's Braxton Ari. First with the takedown, this in period 1, to kind of set things up nicely for the rest of the match. And it would be a match that Will would flat out dominate from that point forward. Ends up on the bottom to start in period number 2. Here he comes back, slipping the neck out eventually, getting the kid in a bad position. And that, my friends, is a reversal to make it a 4-0 lead at that point. A final takedown makes it 6-1 in favor of Will Lucy. He not only won his semifinal wrestleback today, ended up winning his 3rd place match. He is, again, just a freshman, a young man who probably has multiple titles in his future as well. Congratulations to Will Lucy on the big win. Other guys, will show you some more video. Go back to the video if you will, Lily. We got a little more to show you. It was a rough morning as well for Antonio Quintana. Well, apparently we can't do that, so we'll talk about those guys in a second. First of all, I want to say congratulations to gentlemen who took 3rd place today. They include Quincy Notre Dame's Jeffrey Haley, who wrestled back through the semifinal wrestlebacks today, ended up with a win and another win tonight to end up taking 3rd place, so congratulations to him, part of a great Q&D contingent. Matt Supernaut, after the tough loss last night, bounces back nicely as well to take 3rd place at 182 pounds. 2 fine gentlemen, 2 great wrestlers. Good to see them end their careers on an up note. Also showing out very nicely as well, as I mentioned, a couple of 5th place finishes to tell you about. They include Jack Lucy, who ran into a bit of a trouble this morning, got pinned in his semifinal wrestleback, but wrestled back valiantly to take 5th place. Darren Stevens also bounced back from Quincy Notre Dame to take 6th place. Also showing out very, very well today, Dakota Downs from Quincy High School, who ends up finishing 5th. Antonio Quintana from Beardstown got a loss this morning, but bounced back to take 5th, as did Gage Stevens, who we had some video of there, so can't show you that, but congratulations to all the local wrestlers. Quincy Notre Dame, by the way, 3 All-Staters. They had only 3 All-Staters previous. That's phenomenal. Speaking of phenomenal, Fort Madison bouncing back nicely today through the back draw. Bryce Meyer, who came into the wrestling meet up in Des Moines undefeated, suffered his first loss in his 2nd day, comes all the way back to finish 3rd at 113 pounds. Will finish the season with just 1 loss, but great for Bryce to see him get things going back and finish with a 3rd place finish. Clayton Hawker, after losing in the semifinals yesterday, ends up fighting his way back as well through the back draw for a 5th place finish. And big guys, they did pretty well as well. Alex Goss, another guy who came into the state wrestling meet in Des Moines undefeated at 285 pounds. He ended up getting a loss in his first match at state, bounces back and goes all the way to 7th place. So good for him. And Kyle Muring, another one of those outstanding Hannibal Pirates, ends up finishing 4th today at 220 pounds down in Missouri. So as I told you, a phenomenal set of wrestlers the Tri-State gave us this season. We had a blast covering you. Your best efforts deserve our best efforts, which is why we drove all over the place covering you this postseason and certainly enjoyed it. Thank you, wrestlers. Can't wait for next November to see what the future has in store. And what the future of overtime has in store, it's plenty of basketball, including Central Lee trying to book passage to state in Des Moines, plus a really interesting day of college basketball, including Western Illinois and South Dakota State going at it for the Summit League lead. Those highlights coming up straight ahead.
You're watching KHQA Overtime with Chris Dewar, brought to you by Con Communications.
Welcome back to Overtime, everybody. With the wrestling season now officially closed, our attentions are fully focused on the hardwoods from here on out for the rest of the winter, and the goal of getting area teams to the biggest stage of all. First in line, the Central Lee Lady Hawks, who were but 1 win away tonight from a trip to Des Moines. Standing in the way, Bondurant Farrar, who I can only imagine is named after former Scotland County coach Brett Bondurant, and Jay Farrar, the lead singer of Sunvolt. I don't know where that came from, just what I thought. How about Central Lee trying to make some things happen with the defense early? Bailey McCoy pokes the ball loose. Tracy Keller finds Jordan Greenfield, who's been red hot of late. That's a deuce. Bondurant, though, hitting most of their shots in that first period. That 3-pointer makes it 6-2 at that point in favor of Bondurant Farrar. How about McCoy looking inside for Jana Matheson? The outstanding power forward gets the deuce. It's Central Lee down 6-4 at this point. It's going to get ugly fast, though. Bondurant goes on a big run, beats the first quarter buzzer. It's 19-4 after the first period. Central League desperately tried to save their season. Taylor Burdett, all 6'2" of her, phenomenal, uncoils and gets the bucket here. Unfortunately, there was no getting over that early mountain. Bondurant Farrar ends Central League season. Final count in this one sees the Hawks go down 50-35. Great year for Lane Wyrather and company as the Lady Hawks end up 20-5, but just shy of Des Moines. There will be no girls teams in Des Moines for us this season. Keokuk's bid to take out Washington, their arch nemesis, on the road tonight, falls short. I listened to most of this game tonight on the way home from Columbia. Nobody in this game could hit a three-pointer, and that was the difference when you don't have the Lake and Bolts presence from the outside. Keokuk isn't nearly as potent, and unfortunately, it seemed like the rims were really tight for everybody tonight. Washington gets the win. Great season for Mike Davis and company. Great to have Coach Davis back, and again, our condolences on the loss of his father. Great guy, Mike Davis, so we do feel for him and his family, obviously in our prayers these days. Let's talk the start of Missouri District basketball. Believe it or not, it's already here, kids, as Marion County, the girls get off to a nice start today over in La Plata, knocking off Brashear 65-32 was your final on that one. North Shelby also a winner over in La Plata today, beating up on Madison. Final count in that one was 50-29. Liz Lindberger, who else, with 22 points to spur her team to the victory today. We did have one boys basketball game going on today over in Peoria, and it was not a good one for Quincy Notre Dame, who falls to 19-7 on the season. P&D beats Q&D 58-45. The Raiders have been up and down of late, and with regionals just a week away, be interesting to see what Scott Douglas's team does and how they round into shape going into this final week, heading into the postseason and the trip to Galesburg. So that is certainly something to be watched. Moving on now, this is the time on Overtime when we unveil our latest Con Communication Connection nominee for the month of February. Here's the deal, if you don't already know it. We put up a month's worth of outstanding sports couplings for your perusal, and when the calendar turns once again, you get a chance to vote for the very best of the lot. And as an incentive for you to vote, anyone who does so, anybody who participates in the process, becomes eligible to win a prize package from Con Communication. So this week we had a lot of interesting highlights with the playoffs starting. I don't think anything was more spectacular, however, than the efforts of Cassidy Gengenbacher. Obviously, all-stater, and you know how good she is going to Lindenwood next year, but what she did in the first half against Springfield Southeast was just ridiculous. She had 22 first half points. She could have probably had 50 if she wanted to before Quincy Notre Dame took its foot off the accelerator. She also had that great pass there to Jordan Frericks. Obviously, Cassidy Gengenbacher, a phenomenal player. She was hitting from the outside like we've never seen her hit before, so she will certainly be one of the nominees for that outstanding performance as Quincy Notre Dame motors on into the sectional coming up on Monday night at Mount Zion. That against Chatham Glenwood. We'll have the highlights of that big game coming up for you on Monday night at 10 o'clock, plus the Keokuk boys in action. We're just gearing up for the really fun stuff. You thought we were busy tonight. You thought we were busy this week. It ain't nothing yet. And we'll have more overtime for you, including, as promised, Western Illinois versus South Dakota State coming up next. Leathernecks and Jackrabbits for the top spot in the Summit League. Senior night for Nate Walters, the outstanding, perhaps someday NBA point guard. Early on, though, Western making it a Terrell Parks showing. He hits the jumper early. They're up 4-0. Here comes SDSU. Jordan Dykstra with the three. He had 12 points, 10 boards on the ball game. How about Nate Walters? He's going to create here. Kid's really good. He can not only score, he can find the open man. This time, Braden Carlson, who knocks down the three. He had 11 on the ball game. And then Chad White into Nate Walters, who draws the foul, the bucket, the Band-Aid, and the three-point play. Walters, the difference in this ball game. He ended up with 28. Western had no answer for him, and Western has to concede the top spot. Coach Molinari not happy, his team losing today. Final count in this one was 64-55. Quincy University men trying to get things back together, and they look pretty darn good in this game. No one better than the reigning KHQA Player of the Year, that guy, Dalton Hoover out of Pittsfield. Oh, look at the spin move. It's Chandler Parson-esque. Good stuff from that big guy. He had 21 points. That's a career best from our man right there, Dalton Hoover. Meanwhile, Ryan Stuckman, another former KHQA Player of the Year, poking the ball loose, hooking up with Chris Babbitt right there. The steal and the score for him. Scott Hahn, the pride of Mount Pleasant, with a pretty move right here. And the interior, Quincy University leading and making some things happen. Jens Kennedy going to back down his defender. He's a load. Great spin off right there and kissing one off the glass for two. More from Stuckman right here as the Hawks look really good, and maybe things are starting to round into shape for Quincy University as they get a nice win today. Had to hold off a late rush from Missouri S&T. The Hawks do win 71-66. How about the John Wood men at Parkland today? Brad Hamilton and company, another former KHQA Player of the Year, shows lousy with them tonight. The former Pittsfield star knocking down the triple here for 3 of his 12 points on the night tell you what, though, John Wood had some struggles today. Michael Roy, not one of them. He knocks down the jumper, and then Cortland Jackson going to get the steal and go floor link. Unfortunately for the Blazers today, they just could never seem to get a tough stop when they needed it. They had a couple of loose moments on offense as well, and they end up losing a game that they probably should have won at a Parkland team that's been enigmatic, to say the least, this season. 61-55 was your final there. Other men's scores, the one that probably hurts the most today, Culver Stockton now probably has no chance after losing on the road at Evangel of winning the regular season conference crown as they lose 78-79 in overtime. Heartbreaker for the Wildcats. Austin Keaton with 19 points in that defeat today. HLG today, they lose to Park College. Final count in that one was 69-61. Quincy University women trying to get off the schneid after maybe their ugliest game of the season. They would build a rather nice lead in the first half in this ball game, courtesy of Maggie Cunningham, who's going to go strong to the hole and use the left hand, going southpaw to make it an 8-point lead in favor of QU at that point. Hannah Weidman going to work right here. She's going to miss her first attempt, but if at first you don't succeed, steal the ball away and do it again, which she does. She buries that as well. Then Lucy Cramsey playing creator, going to hook up with Kelly Bursch for the three from the outside. It's a 24-15 lead for QU. They would extend their lead to 10 at the half. Ms. Bursch going to hit another of those threes right here to make it a 10-point lead, but unfortunately collapse. The Lady Hawks, who were awful in the first half on Thursday, not very good in the second half on Saturday, and they're 0-2 for the week as they end up losing. Tough week for the Lady Hawks. They end up losing that game. There you go. Final score was 59-54. John Wood women in action today as well. Cheyenne Hedrington and company trying to get the job done and trying to do it well in this ball game. Cheyenne Hedrington with 19 points in this ball game. Unfortunately, really couldn't get a whole lot to go with her today as John Wood kind of struggled. This is Cheyenne Hedrington right there with a bucket. Also, Marshea Sangster had 19 points as well, the Shankster of love at that point, but unfortunately just not enough today as John Wood would end up losing by 10 in this one. 80-70 would be your final in that ball game. Couple of women's scores to pass along today. We do have some good news somewhere. It's not Western Illinois as South Dakota State comes in and hands JD Gravina's team a loss. A 61-52 count was your final in that one. Anybody with good news? How about Culver Stockton? This is a team that's kind of starting to put things very quietly together. Chelsea Stanley, the pride of Keokuk today, with 14 points as the Lady Wildcats win on the road at Evangel. That's a good quality win for them, 57-53 as well. And Park College today, a winner over HLG. Final count in that one was 58-34.